Hey everyone, Lauren Wild here. Thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, Weaving the Wild. We are going to be talking about the Pisces full moon today in all of her glory. So, this is an annual lunation. It is also the harvest moon, meaning that it is the moon closest to the autumn equinox. All right. So this happens every year. This particular moon is called the harvest moon, and it is a time of liminal space or paradox holding, as this time of the year is in general, of both grief and gratitude. This was a teaching that was taught to me by my teacher, Danielle Dulski, and that is learning how to hold the tension of grief and gratitude in their paradoxical ways. And in a way, we do that with every full moon because a full moon means that we have the sun exactly opposite the moon. And so it always requires a need for balance. And so in the harvest moon, it requires more of a sense of balance than maybe some of the other. The only one that would really would be close would be the ones on our two solstices, both summer solstice and winter solstice, and then our spring equinox and our autumn equinox, because those are all balancing points in the year and time and the cycles and nature, but also in the Celtic wheel of the year, which is something that I personally live by and teach my students to live by as well. And why I talk about all of that is because no matter what, the sun is in Virgo. So it does have, the light shining brightly on all Virgoan things. It'll be at 17 degrees. The sun will be at 17 degrees of Virgo, and the moon will be at 17 degrees of Pisces. And that's what makes us our full moon. So it's right in the middle decan, meaning again it's like right in the middle point. It's a very true Pisces energy. It isn't leaning more one way or the other like Aries or Aquarius. It's like right solid in the middle of Pisces. And so with Virgo is the it's the grain goddess, if you will. It honors the natural seasons and cycles. It is very much the priestess of, or the priest of, the zodiac. And so it very much honors cycles when Virgo is in its health. When Virgo is not in its health, it can become very OCD, very control oriented, because it naturally does know how things are supposed to be. It knows how to organize. It understands the cycles. It understands the seasons innately. But if a Virgo energy is not grounded in actual nature, it's not grounded in the actual seasons, like by spending time outside, being in nature, it can want to create its own cycles and its own seasons because that's what it does. It's highly analytical. It's meant to track cycles. And so, these were incredible agriculturalists back in the day. These were people that were extremely good at harvesting things like the grains and corn and organizing things like the potatoes that came out of the ground to put them under the house so that you'd have enough starches to be able to survive. And we all feel this in a way anthropologically, and that is because our ancestors were always starting to organize for the winter. So back in the day, our ancestors did not have the ability to run to the store and get food. Whatever came out of the ground at this time of the year was what was going to sustain your family. And so it's different when we think about it like that, right? But the reason I bring all of that up is because we are still under Virgo influence with the sun shining in the Virgo constellation. However, with the sun opposite the moon, it is shining on the subconscious, that of as above, so below, in Pisces. And Pisces is the ruler of the 12th house. It is the ruler of the super subconscious. It is the rulers of dreams and intuition. It's ruled by Neptune. So this is a really interesting time because Virgo is very high conscious mind, very critical mind. It is ruled by Mercury, which we're going to talk here about in a minute. But it is very much about this very analytical process of the sun being in Virgo, shining a light on the surrender that the Pisces moon wants us to make, the healing that the Pisces moon wants us to take, the belief that we're meant to re-engage with, the faith for the process, right? So Virgo and Pisces are always exactly opposite access points, and their center point is healing. They're both meant to be healers. They just heal in completely different ways, right? So Virgo is highly analytical. Um, it's excellent at organizing all the things, but when we look at Pisces, and Virgo is the modern day ruler of Virgo is Chiron. So it's very much like the chiropractor, the nature path. Like it has a very systematic approach. It's the health coach. Um, it can also be the risk management or the organizational manager. It very much like has things it wants to go in a certain way. Whereas when you look at Pisces, it is exactly the opposite. It wants to dissolve all the structures. It's like you and I are one, like all of this is a facade and you and I are one and separation is an illusion, right? Because Pisces is the final sign of the zodiac. It is the two fish swimming around each other. It is the ocean because of Neptune, and it is meant to dissolve, and it's meant to heal, and it's meant to see things like from a big, like a huge point of view. It's like we're all little drops in the ocean of consciousness, right? Whereas Virgo sees everything through a literal microscope. Like if you could put all of the signs in terms of their vision, Virgo sees the world through a microscopic lens, okay, because it's highly analytical. It's looking for the patterns, looking for the disease. It's looking for how it can root out the impurity, okay? And Pisces is like, it all belongs, like it's all here, like just trust the process, right? And that is, right? Virgo is I analyze, and Pisces is I believe. So it's an interesting time. Now, here's what's interesting again about this particular aspect is it's trine to Uranus, now station retrograde, leaning back again on the north node in Taurus at 16 degrees of Taurus. So it's within a 1 degree conjunction, like to that trine. It's very close. And what that means is that it is this aspect is asking us to surrender and to heal something, to let something go that does not serve us anymore, some structure, some analytical belief system, some very rigid, because the earth signs can become rigid, something that we are afraid of. Virgo can get obsessive, it can be correlated to OCD, and so it's very persnickety, right? Whereas Pisces is the opposite of it, and it's just like none of this, like it'll all work out, and it's very forgetful. It's not very organized, right? Um, so they're just opposites of each other, but they need each other because they both require each other for healing. So again, we get this every year. We get this annual time every year. I have many placements in Virgo, and I have a hard time with Pisces energy, Neptune energy in general. I have a lot of like harsh placements that make me like I've had to go through a lot to like structure myself, and Pisces is always like dissolve, trust the process, surrender, and I'm always like I can do hard things when I know what's about to happen, and Pisces is like you don't need to know, just trust, let it heal you, and I'm always like oh my gosh. So everybody deals with Pisces energy differently. You're probably going to have weird dreams. Pay attention to your dreams. I've been dreaming about snakes. Snakes have been greeting me everywhere. There's literally was a snake skin hanging out of my tree. Like if you get on my Instagram, you'll see there's literally a snake skin hanging out of my juniper tree where I've been doing my offerings for the last, I don't know, 3 months. And to know that there was a snake above my head just freaks me out. But that being said, this moon is it's going to ask you to surrender something, to stop trying to control and analyze something, and to trust the process, and to believe, and to let something that was once very rigid and structured in your life release so that you can heal and come back to some sort of center around your spiritual beliefs. Okay. I'll ask you guys some questions that you can meditate on by the end of this. You can also see them written on my blog, which will be, the link will be below, so you can correlate back to that if you need to like see the visual. But first, let's talk about the actual transits, okay? So the most important thing is This happens every year. Okay. Like this aspect happens every single year. We are asked to celebrate the harvest, to release the plants that are done giving us, our vegetables. Like I have a garden out back, and I feel like it's just so helpful as a person with Virgo, Mars, and Venus to have a garden, because it just reminds you of like the cycles of like you put the seeds in the ground, you take care of the seeds. You really have to take care of the seeds in the beginning. Then they start to get some feet, and then you got to keep the bugs off of them. And then all of a sudden, a few months later, they start giving you food. They give you tomatoes, they give you squash, they give you zucchini, whatever it is that you're growing, cucumbers. Um, and then at this time of the year, they start to dry up and die and give you the final things that they have. And then depending on the kind of plant, you usually have to pull them out of the ground and till the land and cover it up and wait until the next season, and let it rest. And we are exactly the same way, my friends. Like we are nature. We are the exact same way. We need the same kind of care. And so if you go outside and you see all of your flowers are starting to release their petals, give gratitude to them for showing up and blooming in their right season. We can learn so much about that. That's another tangent I won't get on today. But that is what we're meant to see, is that when we trust nature, um, it lives when it's meant to live. It dies when it's meant to die, and it always comes back, right? And a lot of times it'll come back even stronger depending on how well we take care of the soil when there's nothing actually being planted in it, right? So my old pastor's coming out right now. I could turn this into a sermon for you, but I won't. We're going to make this about healing, because that's what this is about. It's about healing. It's about release. It's about surrender, and it's about belief. Okay. And so what I want to talk about first, though, is going to be the aspects. So here's where we have our aspects. First things first is that Mercury stationed retrograde yesterday. Today. I'm doing this on September the 9th. The actual lunation is tomorrow on the 10th. I'll give you all the details about that here in just a moment. But Mercury is retrograde. It's stationed retrograde at 8 degrees of Libra. And why that's very interesting and important is because during the entirety of Mercury retrograde, it is going to be opposite Jupiter the entire time. So why is that important? Is because it is creating this thick tension, because they're both retrograde. So they're asking us to look back, and especially through the lens of when it will be in Libra first. It's like what is the relationship style between the sense of self, Aries, Jupiter and Aries, and the other. And so like you being an individual and you being in relationship, whether that's romantic relationship, business partnerships, friendships, or even open enemies, those are all seventh house Libra energies. Are they just, are they equal? Do they feel like there's a sense of equanimity? And if not, how can they be healed? And that is both in the physical and in the spiritual. Like, is there an alignment of frequency? And if not, like, is that other person going to evolve? Are you going to evolve? It could be you. And if not, is that relationship going to dissolve under this influence over the next 6 months? These are just some concepts to bring up. Then once we start to get to where Mercury is going to pull into Virgo at 29 degrees on September, I think it's the 23rd. It's either the 23rd or the 24th, which is the autumnal equinox exact point. Then we start to get to this like Pisces, Jupiter, late degree Pisces energy and late degree Virgo energy, which is very, very nitpicky. It's very much about health. It's very much about surrender. It's very much about trust. It's very much about both releasing the ego and getting clear on other aspects. And so we're going to have that moving through the entirety of it. But at this full moon, Mercury is stationing retrograde, which is like confusion and chaos in communication in general. Throw in a Pisces full moon, we've got emotions rising to the surface. We've got feelings everywhere. We've got crying. We have a lot of potential for a lot of miscommunication and chaos. Just very soupy, watery mess. Okay. Pisces being the ocean, it needs a container, it needs a bowl to hold it. Okay. And that's where Virgo can come in. It is a healing structure if you let it be what it is. And that is to use Virgo's energy to analyze, to do shadow work, to ask myself, or to ask yourself, like, what is under this? Why am I hurting? What are these old outdated egoic structures that are actually causing me more pain, when if I could just surrender this and let go, that I would be able to evolve and heal, right? Could be relationships because of being in Libra, could be your relationship to yourself, and it no matter what has to do with working out the mind, okay? Because they're both technically ruled by Virgo, or Virgo and Gemini, not Gemini, sorry. Mercury retrograde is obviously Mercury, and then Virgo is co-ruled by Mercury and Chiron. So it's very analytical, and Pisces wants to make us get out of our mind and get into our emotions and the soup of it and to feel big, big feelings. So the next aspect is going to be the moon is in a weak conjunction to Neptune retrograde, but it's in a conjunction. So even more so amplifying this need to heal, to trust, to lean into some sort of deeper spirituality and deeper spiritual meaning. Um, dreams are going to be weird. Make sure you write down your dreams. They will absolutely be weird. And they are asking you to go to a higher octave of love, to a higher octave of trust, and to reconnect spiritually. All right. It just is like there are two periods of time in my life that are consistent based on my natal chart. And that is when the sun moves into 0 degrees of Capricorn, because it's on my Neptune and the Pisces full moon. They mess me up. There's always some major dissolving that happens in my life, but they are always my like spiritual tune in, where like I get to connect to my ancestors or to a new guide, or I get to look to something new that's going to help me grow spiritually. And so there's that Uranus trine the sun in Virgo. This is such an interesting thing because it's help. It's trines are always help. They're always harmonious. They're here to support us. They're here to help us. These are like our helpful aspects, and they're meant to help us change, right? And changed for the good because of its conjunction to the North Node in Taurus. And that is, there will be change that happens. There will be some sort of upset that always happens when Uranus is involved, but it is towards the higher good. And it can be shocking anytime there's a lunation that involves Uranus. Take care of your central nervous system. It will fry you. You gotta take some serious salt baths during this period of time. I'll talk about that when we get to the end with the ritual. But then the other major aspect I want to talk about is going to be Mars at 11 degrees of Gemini. It's not retrograde yet, but it is in its shadow period. Also in a trine to Venus at 6 degrees of Virgo. So this is the masculine and the feminine being in support to one another. Okay, this is again another positive aspect, and like it just means that there is an opportunity again for healing. And when we're talking about Pisces, we're talking about big collective energy. We're not necessarily talking about individuals. With Virgo, yes, but with Pisces, it's like coming together with the spectrum of the eros, the masculine energy, the solar quality of self, and the lunar, the more feminine qualities, and like learning how to work with both parts of self, of ego. Okay, because honestly, it really boils down to like we are a spectrum of existence when it comes to our gender identity. It's just a construct, but it's a spectrum. It could be anywhere. Those are just the extremes. The masculine, the feminine, those are just the full extremes of the spectrum. You could be anywhere in between. So, Pisces is very mutable as well as Virgo, but Pisces is definitely much more mutable than Virgo. So lean into that mutable energy, lean into the release, lean into the change and the surrender and the evolution, right? When Uranus is involved, we're talking about Kundalini energy, we're talking about 4D energy. So, allow the old skin. I just keep snake, man. Snake spirit is with me. Allow the old skin to slough off and allow yourself to kind of lean into having some new skin. You're going to feel vulnerable. You're going to feel tender, but it's necessary. So I'll use that as a segue to get to the two cards that I pulled for some sense of support. And I thought they were interesting because one was Armadillo Spirit, and that is setting healthy boundaries. And then the other was chameleon spirit, act as if. And so I did some research before sharing because I just want to see what popped up. And the first one, armadillo spirit, was healthy boundaries. Here's Virgo, all right? Earth signs, when they're in their power, they have healthy boundaries. And that's the container, okay? Like when anytime I'm working with my students, the first thing we work on is boundaries. And that is, if we don't have a container to do the healing work in, it's going to spill out. And we're going to allow other people to come in and project their opinions on us, or we're going to be worried about what they think. And so the first things first is lean into Virgo to help you set boundaries to heal in the container in which you need to heal. Trust yourself, please. Pisces is intuition. Trust yourself, trust your own inner knowing during this time. Do not allow yourself to be open to other people's opinions about how you should be living your life right now. Like, just don't. Decide, I am no longer interested in other people's perceptions about me. People's perceptions of me is their business, not mine. Okay. And then the second card was the chameleon. And this talked about adaptability. This talked about, like, which I think goes beautifully with the Uranus aspect, and that is, you're not quite there yet. So allow yourself to be a shapeshifter at this time. Allow yourself to find people that you trust and to follow in their ways until you find your own unique way. Just make sure that whoever it is that you are chameleoning is someone that you trust, and someone that you aspire to look up to. I always tell people imposter syndrome is exactly where you're supposed to be. I mean, how else do you get there? Like, if you've never been in a place that you've been, how do you not get there without imposter syndrome? I personally feel like imposter syndrome is a good thing. It just means that you haven't fully embodied it yet. It hasn't fully integrated yet. You are developing who you are. The soul, it casts out an image in front of itself and it steps into it, right? Otherwise, it would already be there. So at this period of time, set healthy boundaries and allow changeability to serve you, allow adaptability to serve you at this time. So I'm going to close out with a few questions for you. Pulling them up really quick. There we go. So you could use these as tarot prompts or journal prompts, whichever one suits your fancy. My questions to you are, number one, what was once healthy for you that now seems to have run its course? Okay. Card number two, in what area of your life has your mind driven analytical process run its course and now needs faith and surrender? What area of your life? Card three, what spiritual message is dreaming through me at this lunation? Card number four, how can I work with Virgo energy to make the dream a reality? And card number five, what needs surrender and healing at most at this time? Okay. My ritual for this weekend, for this lunation, is very simple. It is a salt bath. Super simple, but the salt will help you, like, shed skin. Like, use the salt to actually, like, rub your arms and your body. If you can't take a bath, take a shower with salt. But ask the salt to help you to ground and to, slough off old skin. But salt water is Pisces. Okay, it heals your wounds. It may sting your wounds when you get in, but it helps the process heal faster and more efficiently. Okay, it's real simple. You can go as extreme as you want with doing, like, salt and flowers and candles and all of that stuff, just to as simple as, getting salt and getting in the shower and clearing it off, and, like, I surrender to this process. I let go. Thank you, water, for clearing me. Thank you, salt, for supporting me and grounding me. And, that's it. You can make it as elaborate as you want, but a general salt bath is going to be what I consider to be the most effective. Listening to music, doing art, dream work, subconscious work of any kind, is going to be the most supportive to you. Okay. You can use your analytical mind later, but through this moon, it's letting the feelings come up and direct you. It's letting art lead you and guide you. Okay. If you guys want more information on this, consider joining my coven. It is the Weaving the Wild spiritual community. It's a free community I have on Mighty Networks. You can see the link below, and you can join my spiritual community where I talk about these things, we process these things, as well as my podcast. And I will see you guys on the flip side. Have a happy full moon in Pisces. It's at 5:59 a.m. on September the 10th at 17 degrees of Pisces. All right, y'all. See ya. Happy harvest moon.